Good evening. And welcome to the Central Area Planning Committee at Maldon District Council today, Thursday the 19th of October 2020. I'm Councillor Carly Mays and I'm your chairman this evening. Members and officers, during each item, please indicate if you would like to speak. I'll then invite you at the appropriate time, and if you can make sure that you turn your microphones on and off so that the recordings are nice and clear, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Berna, do we have any apologies?
No, Chairman, we've got a full house this evening.
Ooh, I didn't count everybody. Hi, that's brilliant. Okay, let's move to item 3, and it is recommended that the minutes of the meeting for the Central Area Planning Committee held on the 27th of July are approved as an accurate record. These are only for accuracy. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Flo. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded that they are required to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to any items of business on the agenda having regard to paragraph 9, Annex B of the Code of Conduct for Members. You're also reminded to disclose any of these at such times as you become aware of them should the need arise. Does anybody have anything to declare? No. Nice and simple, Berna. So far, so good. Right, we now move to item 5 and item 6, where I'm actually going to swap these round, and I'm going to take item 6 first for the a single-storey rear extension. So I'm going to take that one first, and then we're going to look at the annex. Okay? If that's okay with that. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah? Okay.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
I just wondered why.
I think as we progress through, the potential is, we know what both things are on the table. The potential is to either refuse or approve both or neither. And I think that this way round would be a better way round to actually proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is that okay, Nicola?
Yes.
Lovely, thank you. Item 6 is application 2200672, 27 Mundon Road, found on pages 25 to 32. It's a proposal for a single-storey rear extension. The application has come before this committee as Mr. Drummond is a member of staff. The officer who is looking after this case is Miss Ward, and I will invite her to make her presentation now. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you, Chair. So, this is the application site, and the extension is to be here to the rear of the application site, next to and adjoining an existing extension that was built under permitted development back in 2017. This is the block plan that shows the layout. The extension is to accommodate an annex for the applicant's parents, and it would provide a communal living space to the rear, a bathroom and a bedroom area. This is the existing floor plan and the existing first floor plan that is to be unaltered. This shows the arrangements of the bedroom, the ensuite area, and then the communal living room to be used by all the occupants of the dwelling. This is the existing extension was built back in 2017. The elevations that show the proposed extension. The proposed extension will measure approximately 8 metres in depth and would be approximately 3.7 metres in height. So these pictures are the site pictures that show you the existing extension here, and the location of the proposed extension would run along this section here. I believe that Some of these, I haven't got it confirmed. However, I believe that this outbuilding will be demolished to accommodate the extension, and the extension would sit along and adjacent to the neighbouring lean-to extension here and project a further approximately 5 metres beyond the neighbouring extension. There is concerns with regards to the scale and the bulk of the extension, and due to this, the impact that that would then have on that neighbouring occupier to the north of the site here. Therefore, the officer's recommendation is refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nicola. Members, I now open it for debate and invite you to put any questions. Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Chair. I was a bit confused about why these were two separate applications. Am I picking up from your suggestion about the way we're dealing with this, that if one's approved, the other one's not required?
That is my understanding. Mrs. Ward, are you able to elaborate at all?
From my understanding, thank you, Chair, that it is meant to be an alternative situation, that both would not necessarily be constructed. However, if both are approved, they would have the option to build both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is what one would normally think of as an annex, and meets all the various criteria that are listed as appropriate to an annex. It's not too big and so on. Scale, design and appearance are considered to be okay. And it is clearly subservient or subordinate, as the phrase goes, to the main building. As far as I can see, this issue of whether it is unneighbourly impacts on the number 25, I think it is.
29.
29, the other way.
29, isn't it?
Seems to be the only
25. Oh, I've got it around the wrong way.
the immediately adjoining property, which has got an extension part way. So this would go a bit further than that. This seems to be the only argument against this particular application. And bearing in mind the length of these gardens, the extra distance, the extra length doesn't seem to me all that significant. I agree it would be, and therefore less of an impact on the neighbouring property. I don't know if the officer can actually show more clearly how it would relate to the neighbouring property, were the extension to go up. Perhaps it's a case of looking at that side of the property and if you've got an image of that side of the property and the neighbour's extension.
Do Chair.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
Could you put your mic on? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The bottom drawing shows a relationship looking south. So the sort of grey bit in the front, if you want to point out, that's the neighbouring property, and then we can see the relationship with the proposed extension.
It's quite long.
Yes. Yeah. And just to give you some, I mean, I'm sure members are all very familiar with, but I tend to try and think of things in real life. If we're looking at something which is about 3 meters by 5 meters, you're looking at something the scale of this wall here, to sort of give some sort of perspective. And the issue is the proximity to the rear facing window in number 25. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Councillor Hurd.
Thank you, Chairman. I know that no letters of representation have been received about this. May we just see the photographs again, please, just showing the rear garden. And so there seems to be some buildings already down that side, and some of those will be removed. My understanding is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Right, okay. So it's a single-storey rear extension. I don't have a problem with it. Thank you.
Thank you. My only comment, sorry, Councillor Beale. No, my only comment was if you look at the photograph at the bottom left with the awning thing, with the parasol thing, so the extension would come out to probably at least the second panel along. I don't think it'll come out quite as far as that, but certainly the second one along. No, if you go to the bottom left, yeah, that one, and then go. So you got there's one panel, and you go to the next panel. Yeah, it's going to come to at least there, from the building, which is it's about 5 metres from the end, because it's 8 metres from the edge of their house. It's quite a long way out, and would you or I like to look at a brick wall out of our window? It's just a comment going forward. That's just my view. Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, basically those pictures don't show you squaddly dit. I mean, it's hard to understand where the actual thing's going. I can understand the 24 odd foot, and I can understand the practicality of having it attached to the property, but then you haven't got the issue of, oh, you can use that as a separate dwelling. But as I said, it is big, and it is attached to the house. But I do also understand the length of that wall on the neighbouring property. But I don't think it's going to cause overshadow. East, no, it won't. No,
Yeah, I mean,
it wouldn't cause shadowing, would it?
Well, sorry, I was going to say that in the report it actually says at 5.3 and 5.3.3 that there's not significant impact on sunlight. So yeah, I think the way that the sun comes round, that wouldn't be as huge an impact as possibly if it was a different orientation. Sorry, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to say that, but in addition to it's sort of been the visual impact. It's overbearingness. It's how one feels next to a structure that you sort of feel dwarfed and engulfed by. So there's also that sort of how you feel about being in a space that you live in particular. There is, yeah, as Councillor Mays pointed out, that there isn't a sunlight and an overshadowing issue. Thank you, Chairman.
I'll come back to you, Councillor Swain. Sorry, did you want to come back? Yeah, of course.
If I could, please. As I said, so it's not the only issue really is that little window from the next door neighbour. I don't know. It's a hard one. I mean, I know it's 24 foot on the back of, but I mean, is that existing extension going to be left there, or is it going to go from where the cream wall is?
It actually goes from
the cream wall.
Yeah.
So that's coming down.
Yeah.
And is it
comes
That's
out?
This is to remain.
So you're going to extend on that extension,
Yeah.
not on the back of the house.
No, it's actually filling in the gap. If you look, you can see in the top one, there's a gap between where the cream wall is and the extension that's coming out. The additional piece of extension is going to come out from there.
Because it's an L shape, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. No, it's on. Councillor Stilts, then Councillor Swain, and then Councillor Lacken. Sorry.
Can you put up? It's the same slide package you sent us. Can you put up slide 4? Because I think that's going to show an awful lot. That one. So from what I can see there, that dark grey part where your cursor is, that is the neighbour's wall. And then the extension is the bit that goes on beyond that. And then you can see it fills in the gap between the existing extension that's already there. Is that correct? Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Lagan, and then I'll come back to Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chair. I could agree with Mr. Johnson. I know the area very well. I grew up down there, and the size of the extension is rather large indeed, and would be overbearing, and the reasons for refusal are quite clear. because of the size. There's nothing in that road. It's a very nice house. It's been renovated and extended very, very carefully, but this is something that doesn't fit in that whole area. The gardens are very long. They have good space at the front and also at the back. And one of the things that causes me a little bit of concern is when the back road was put in at the back of Mundon Road and Fitchers Crescent many years ago, when shows how old I was a little boy, that the concept of that was so that people could actually have rear garden access for parking. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. We may have to look at something like that, but I think it's not within keeping within the street scene there, and it is very overbearing in its current form.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chairman. Can we go back to that one which was put up to make this point about being overbearing? Just that one.
That one.
Yes. I mean, the measurement, it's only 2.5 metres at the eaves, isn't it?
That's the height.
Yes, 2.5 metres and 3.7 to the top of the roof. That seems to me, the diagram seems to me to give a false impression of how big it is or how high it is. I mean,
I don't know if this measurement is quite accurate. I can't recall.
Because that measurement says 3.05, doesn't it?
It's 3.05.
Yeah. So that's 3 metres, which is even more. I mean, that's more than this. That's quite high. If I was sitting in a lounge chair and looking at potentially 5 metres of that going out from the end of my lean-to conservatory at number 25.
And we believe that the window actually serves a living room. That's what we believed, and it would be 0.5 metres from the boundary of the existing neighbouring extension.
Okay. Councillor Hurd.
I propose we agree the recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Edwards and Councillor Shaughnessy. I think we therefore have. Is everybody in agreement?
Sorry, what?
To refuse. Yes, to go with the officer recommendation to refuse the application. Can I have a show of hands, please? I think that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll now return to item 5, going backwards, and this is next. Again, the application has come before us as the applicant is a member of staff. Mrs. Ward, could you do your presentation, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application is for a single-storey detached annex to the rear of the application site. The annex would be located approximately 12 metres from the closest point of the main house and would accommodate a living area, a bathroom, a kitchen and a bedroom, and would be again for the applicant's parents. The overall height would be 4 metres of the building, of the outbuilding, and the existing outbuildings here would all be removed to accommodate the new outbuilding. And these are some of the outbuildings that are within the area. So this outbuilding here that we can see, which is one of the neighbours, which is quite high, and I believe would actually sit higher than the proposed outbuilding, I believe 2 neighbours along to the north, so approximately number 23, Mundon Road. And these outbuildings that you can see are actually across the access road at the back, Fitch's Crescent, to the east of the site. The application is recommended for approval. It meets all the requirements under the policies and therefore is recommended for approval.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up to questions. Councillor Nunn and then Councillor Spenceley.
Can the officer please explain to us how under this planning application, how under 5.1.3 it meets criteria 2 and 5?
Sorry, was that 5.2.3?
5.1.3.
Sorry.
Criterion 2 and 5, bearing in mind the comparison that we've been asked to look at is with garden outbuildings as opposed to habitation.
Sorry, I'm not quite sure I understand.
Well, where's the functional? Sorry, through you, Chair.
Yeah, of
Where
course.
is the functional link? Where is the functional link with the main dwelling?
The occupants.
So
And how is it designed in a way that the annex could then be used?
Oh, could you turn your... Yeah, sorry. I missed that.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beale. Very kind of you. How does this building have a functional link with the main dwelling? What's functional link mean? So is it not a physical link? And how will that annex be used at a later date as an integral part of the main dwelling when they're separate?
So the functional link would be that they have shared amenities. For example, they would share the private amenity space, washing facilities and meals could be taken in the main house. They're all going to be, and they're all going to be linked in terms of family and dependency on the occupants of the main house and the outbuilding. With regards to how it would then be integrated into the main house, if, for example, a new owner was to take over, they could use it as an outbuilding for a summer house or storage, so it could then be integrated and used as part of the main dwelling and not necessarily separated off as a separate dwelling, which is what we're looking at for that particular functional link, and obviously in its perpetuity and how it goes forward, and not necessarily for the current occupiers, but any future occupiers of the dwelling can integrate that outbuilding into their day-to-day requirements.
Confusing, but
Yes.
grateful for the answer.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, did you want to add anything?
No, not really. It was just Miss Ward explained it fully. Okay. I do understand where Councillor Nunn's coming from. It can. Apologies, Chair. I do understand where Councillor Nunn's coming from. It can appear a bit confusing in terms, and I think especially in the case where you have, with the previous example, something which is actually part of the original building, and then you have something separate. But the functional link bit is notional in the sense that it doesn't mean that it has to be physically attached. In a way, it could effectively just be an outbuilding like any other outbuilding, and Miss Ward gave examples of how that could be, to which any one of us could build under permitted development, subject to the criteria. In this case, it's because of the particular use. There is a caring element, there is a level of disability, there's that reliance, there's that link with the occupants of the house, which is why it's important that there is that relationship link in a sense. I mean, we have applications of all sorts come like this, where people just say, oh, some relative or some member of the family, or somebody might be sick in the future, these sorts of things. And we don't accept that argument. In this particular case, the medical documentation has been submitted to say, well, this is what the ailment that the person has. It's an elderly person, and they are reliant on that person, but at the same time maintaining a level of independence within the grounds of the house itself. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Spenceley.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can really see that, and I'm really sympathetic to the needs of the applicant. However, if we look at 5.1.7, it says it is considered, due to the detached outbuilding being in the rear of the garden, that the outbuilding could be used at a later date as an integral part of the main dwelling for such things like garden storage or a summer house. So I get what you're saying, but my question would it then be that later on it couldn't be used by someone else as a dwelling? Because it just seems unlikely to me that something that sophisticated, with a kitchen and a bathroom, is going to be used for garden storage. I find that a little bit forgive me, but unlikely. So would we then put a condition on that would say that it couldn't be used later? Because that also seems quite bizarre. So it's just the clarity around that I wanted to be sure of. Thank you.
Mr Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I understand that this is an issue that's kind of bedeviled planning for decades. I have to admit, I've been involved in this for decades. There's been numerous appeal decisions around this which have swung one way or the other. The consensus that it seems to have come to now, and I've worked in many authorities where this very same issue always comes up, what happens after that need doesn't appear to be in existence. Unfortunately in life, people pass on, that sort of thing. What happens to it then? The main purpose for planning, in terms of our land use planning, is to ensure that the building does not become a separate dwelling. Yeah, that's the main thing. And attached to this is a condition to say it should not be used as a separate dwelling.
Condition 4.
Which is condition 4. Yeah, it is sophisticated. Some people will put in a higher level of accommodation than others. Some don't have kitchens. Some just may have a little kitchenette, just a microwave. I don't know, something like that. It could be used by another family member. That may well be the case. Another need for a particular ailment, dependence, requirement may also come up again. But the main thing is integral to that dwelling. It's not separated from the dwelling, which again, within the criteria, there's things like it shouldn't have its own garden, or it be separated by fencing and things of that nature. And that's kind of the position in the planning world where it is in terms of that.
Thank you. Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Chair. So that was really my question. I wanted to make sure that there was a condition in there that it couldn't be used as a separate living accommodation. And as for that nonsense, I mean, I don't know where he got that one from. There's no way in hell's earth that's going to be a shed or a whatever. I mean, if it is, I'll move in.
Sophisticated shed.
At the end of the day, I just want to make sure there's a condition that it can't be used in existing and that it can't be any dividing fence from the existing property so they can get access from the rear.
Yes, because there is rear access.
Because there is rear access there.
Just as a matter of interest, does the annex go from boundary to boundary, side boundary to side boundary? Is there any space?
No, I don't think.
There is. There's about a metre.
There's approximately just over. There is approximately just over a metre here, which is to the south of the site, and just under a metre here to the north of the site. And I don't know what that distance is there.
So there's potential.
1.1.
Is that 1.1?
Oh yeah,
I seem to remember.
yeah, I think it was. Councillor Beale.
Sorry, it's just reminded me. Why haven't we got some sort of plan showing where that building's going to be?
Well, this plan does.
Does it?
If you see the red lines on either side, they're the boundary lines.
Yeah.
And then where
Is that right back against the back fence?
no, it's about a metre.
That's what I'm saying.
1.1.
You haven't got a little block pan that says, oh, it's halfway up the garden or it's down the other end.
No, I think it's a metre from the bottom fence, and then
You've got
it's
to
a
have your
metre
metre. You've got
that
to have your
side
metre.
and a metre that side.
Yeah, which you got
Give
to
or
have.
there or
So it is the bottom of
thereabouts.
the garden.
Yeah.
So does
You
it come
couldn't drive a
with
car down a metre.
does it come with compulsory umbrellas then? Does it?
Maybe. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chairman. We not only have a rather strained interpretation of functional, but also now of integration. Two things. Firstly, it's hardly an annex if it's so far apart from the house. I mean, it's another stretched term. It is a separate and seemingly self-contained site. And the other thing is if we're looking at it strictly in planning terms, we're supposed to ignore the personal circumstances of the particular applicant, because the
Extenuating circumstances, can't we?
situation would change, and anybody coming into it subsequently would either feel constrained by having this additional property at the back of their garden, or might make use of it in a way which they're not supposed to. I mean, those properties along the back have all got accesses at the back, and it wouldn't be long before a gate was put in the back fence for access. I can't see this really fulfils the criteria for being a subservient and part of the dwelling. Never would be. And so I can't really accept the arguments for it.
Thank you. Would you like to elaborate on the condition, on the situation with extenuating circumstances, Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Chairman. The criteria we apply is encapsulated within the specialist needs planning document. I'm sure I've missed a word out there. And that's where these criteria come from. Under
Policy H4.
There's policy H4, and when where's that section in the report? Under 5.1.3, the criteria 1 to 7, that's directly lifted from the specialist needs planning document. That is what we apply, and in particular, it's about that the special circumstances, rather than just having it that anybody can go in there, so to speak. We do have applications of that type. We've had applications considered by other committees of that type, where we've refused applications because they are not able to demonstrate that, but they may have been approved at committee. So it's one in which sometimes, unfortunately, different interpretations can be applied to it, but we do apply the criteria within our planning documents. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Hurd and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Beale.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm satisfied about the positioning of it. I'm also satisfied that there should be a walk-around boundary around the actual property. I would like to ask if we can impose a further condition that there's no pedestrian access at the rear as a condition. And the reason that I say that is because I understand why it's being built as an annex for the occupant's parents, and I think that condition 4 does make it clear that it should be used only for purposes incidental to the residential use. But I think that it would be very tempting to rent that out as a single unit. But I think if there was a condition that there was no access at the rear, that would deter it.
Mr. Johnson, because I've no idea.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think a condition like that could be a bit problematic for us in terms of whether it meets the test for one, and the test includes, is it reasonable and that sort of thing. And even if we were to, to all intents and purposes, the property is still a dwelling house, which will still carry its permitted development rights. If they remove the existing gate, there's nothing to stop them from putting another one in under permitted development, unless you wanted to get into removing permitted development rights. It starts getting a bit messy and probably difficult, and if there was a challenge on appeal on these conditions, it may be a bit awkward for us to defend it. And if it's considered unreasonable, there could be costs involved. We do think that the condition, it's a condition which is one widely used up and down the country in appeal decisions, and I, for one, do spend a lot of my time reading appeal decisions to see what goes on in other authorities, and inspectors, and everybody refers on appeal decisions in all different places in a way that, are they taking the right route with these things? I would even say over the years I've swung different ways because that's how it's been. But this is the standard position. We've even had a number of appeal decisions on these things recently in Maldon, and the conditions that we've attached are the robust ones and seem to satisfy what's required. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Chair. I'm obviously on a roll tonight,
You
which is
are.
unusual. I think what Councillor heard is a very valid point, so I don't think it is an issue. I know if I was an officer with MDC, I would be asking fellow officers what I can and can't do. Is that a back gate? Top right-hand corner on that right-hand side of the picture?
Correct, yes. Yep.
So it could go either one of two ways. It could either be, yes, a very good selling point because my parents and us are going to buy this house knowing they've got somewhere to live, right? That's the first option. But a more likely option is they will let that out as a second property because you've got rear access. So I think that's a very valid point because you've got that back gate leading out onto that, whatever it is, road, track or whatever at the back.
It's a proper service road. It's a proper
Yeah,
made
but
up
service
road,
road.
isn't it? I
But
think
you
it's a
can
concrete
guarantee
road.
that'll either be a good selling point when they sell it so that grandparents and children live together. That's the plus. But the minus is that's got a back gate and that means that someone could use that as a separate entity to the property as another form of income, especially with the cost of living as it is at the minute. So I would like to see that back gate taken out.
I think Mr Johnson's made it quite clear that that would not be, I think, reasonable or even enforceable going forward.
So you think if they did use it as a rented property, that someone's going to come out and say, oh, do you know they're using that as a rented property?
Well,
Maldon District isn't going to check on that.
Then it comes down to enforcement, doesn't it? Because we have got a condition that says that it has to be used as incidental residential use.
So that would be another addition to the 385 pages of
Absolutely.
the enforcement.
I hear what you're saying.
And you lose the will to live after page 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've not even reached my
No,
ward.
I think that is a big mistake having that back gate in there because that could be open to different options.
I'll come to you in just a moment. Mr Johnson.
No, thank you, Chair. I mean, I've made my point, but ultimately, decisions here are within members' gifts. That's all. That's all.
If we put a condition in, it could be appealed. And we could lose.
So that, whatever the thing, item 4 you said, is in the conditions.
Yes, it
I
is.
forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah,
so
that's
the
already in
condition
the
4
condition.
is it cannot be a separate dwelling outside of the family.
Yes.
But I'm not happy about that back gate. But, yeah, I think Councillor Hurd might have something to say about it.
Councillor Hurd.
Thank you. Really, just to, I was only exploring the possibility about the gate, but I'm satisfied from Mr Johnson's answer that condition 4 is strong enough to deter anything like that. So I'm happy with that.
Okay.
And if it's, I'm happy to come back with a proposal if...
Can I come back to you? I'll let Councillor Edwards first.
I propose that we accept the officer's recommendation, please.
Do I have before I go on to a seconder, I'd like to try and get as many people views on this. Councillor Swain, if you could make it concise.
Yes, it is just a brief additional comment. If this goes through, it does make this a completely different property from the point of view of future occupants. It is now a completely different proposition. It's not just a house with an annex tacked on or built on as the previous application would have been if it had been slightly modified or slightly less dominant. This is now a completely different animal.
Thank you. I'll go back to Councillor Edwards. Okay. All those in favour, could I have a show of hands, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4. Those against? 2 against. Any abstentions? Just me, Berner. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Mrs. Ward, do you want to stay or would you like to go? No, I don't mind if you go. That's why I'm asking you. I know you've got small children. Okay. See you later. Okay. Members, let's now move to item 7. Before we look at item 7, which is application 22000820, Promenade Park, Park Drive, Maldon, property belonging to and controlled by Maldon District Council, who is the applicant, I'd like to just make a comment. I would like this matter deferred and sent to Strategy and Resources Committee to look at this much more closely before it comes back to planning for decision making. Do I have anybody who would second my proposal? Thank you. Ms. Councillor Nunn, did you want to say something?
You're reading my mind.
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
For me, with this application, something fundamental is missing. And it's something that we've been promised for months, which is a plan for the prom. Now, before Mr. Johnson tells me that's not a planning issue,
No.
this is our application submitted by Maldon District Council for consideration by Maldon District Council. I can't imagine any developer putting forward a speculative planning application without having some forward plan about what they're trying to achieve. And I just think this is a completely ad hoc, misplaced application that needs to be in context before it's submitted. So I would certainly second your proposal to have it deferred.
Thank you. Before I go to a vote, I'm going to go to Councillor Lagan, then I'll come to Councillor Swain and then Councillor Beale.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think although the proposal is a sound proposal, I think that the item should be debated because it has been called in by Councillor Swain, and I think that if we could look at the debate and see what members feel about the report and the objectives of the report, and then see if the vote takes it for or against, and then a proposal for to go to Strategy and Resources could be a meaningful proposal, because I think there's some considerations that should be debated by members this evening with the content of the report as it stands, and it has been called in by a ward member as well.
Yeah, it would come to committee anyway, because it is one of our own applications. So thank you, Councillor Lagan. Councillor Swain.
Yes. Perhaps Ms. Matthews or Mr. Johnson can give some guidance here, but we are looking at or being asked to look at this as a planning issue, and therefore we have to not infiltrate other matters of policy concerning usage of the prom park. There were 2 points from a planning point. Well, it's difficult to disentangle them, and I'm not necessarily going against what you're recommending, but perhaps the officers could explain why this is necessary, given the operational scope for officers to actually use these areas for the purposes that are identified in the application.
Ms. Matthews.
Through you, Chairman, could you ask the question again, just to make sure I understand it completely?
Why does the District Council need planning permission to do what they can probably do anyway?
It's a conservation area, isn't it?
I was, if I'm being totally honest, I was wondering as I was driving here, I was thinking the same thing. But sometimes, I mean, we have had applications for similar things, but which have been submitted by third parties or businesses who want to operate from within the park. So we have had applications similar, but the applicants have been businesses rather than the council itself. Sometimes councils want to be
open and transparent, and want to make sure that the public have had an opportunity to comment on proposals, even if strictly speaking they could possibly use their rights to go ahead and do it anyway. I have seen applications made on that basis in the past, not necessarily here, but in other places. But it's not an application I've had any dealings with prior to it being submitted. It was submitted, so I've dealt with it. But yeah, so and but that's all I know. But the council does have rights to do certain things within the park and the planning unit. I mean, it is quite a number of sites within the park, so it might have felt that in total it was too much to just to go ahead and do on the back of the council's function as managing and operating the park as a leisure facility. But a valid question, and I don't really have an answer, I'm afraid. But one can be found, I'm sure, but not the people I need to ask aren't here.
Thank you. Councillor Beale.
Hopefully I haven't forgot half of what I was going to ask. I think the explanation I can give is, if it's I totally concur with Councillor Nunn. You know, we were supposed to be having an idea of what was going to happen and why we were doing what we were going to do, what we were going to achieve out of it financially, etc. But I think the reason it's come to planning is the fact that where it's a one-off, like a concert or something, then the officers have got the power to do that. But this is more of a semi-permanent, as in, I don't know how many months that is. Wrong time of day to be doing maths.
April,
but basically it's
August, September.
Is it about 6
months?
Yeah, so half the year, you know, that's going to be used for that, and it's going to be a permanent thing. It's not just going to be like a one-off for a concert and then not next year. This is going to be a permanent every 6 months of the year. So I think that's the reason why it's come to council. And so I think Councillor Nunn's right that we do need some sort of idea of what sort of thing we're looking at and why, and do we need it, etc. And also I'd remind members that you do need, after councillor, no, not councillor, I'm promoting him already, the solicitor, Mr. Quelch. I can't call him Squelch, can I? Quelch. Yeah, he recommended that we get a dispensation. So if you haven't got a dispensation for an application that we're actually putting in, you're not able to vote.
He has actually given everybody a dispensation.
Oh, he's done it for everyone,
yes,
has he?
Yes, he has. I just know
decent
that.
of him.
Yeah. Thank you, Berna. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Beale. Can I go to Councillor Hurd, then Councillor Stilts, and then Councillor Lagan?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I suspect one of these applications will be for a motorised ice cream van, which is going all day at the...
one of the locations.
Yeah, one of those. What I'd like to do, I mean, I agree that this should be referred to another committee, but I can't see anything in this report about air quality, and I would like the committee to consider a motorised vehicle emitting diesel fumes all day whilst it's serving ice cream right where the children are playing. So I would like that report included. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stilts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Councillor Hurd in that. I must admit, I looked at this and thought, this is in retrospect, because we already have a shepherd's hut reading room. We already have a lady that does painting out of a van, which is parked down by the water's edge. We already have the ice cream van, so what is different in this? And I agree with Councillor Nunn and yourself that where is the actual plan for this park? Is this for more concessions of the same? We already have the bar, although it's not now called the Grape and Grain Bar. So I can't understand why this has come to us and is not retrospective, because we've had this for quite a while down there. At least 2 years.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Sorry, yeah, I think that obviously the way the conversation's going, the debate, it sounds like a deferral to strategy and resources makes sense, but I think there's a couple of things that we need to consider. That the activities that are carried out on the prom now are under the 28-day rule, where this is looking for a 6-month extension to that for more permanent, I can't call them attractions, from what I saw from the photographs. I find them very in keeping with the Promenade Park. If you look at the recent development, Mr Salisbury, the Rossies and all of those places, they're very much within keeping, and these certainly are not. So I think that does need a deep dive and look. Second, Councillor Nunn is exactly right. From the Central Area Master Plan, Project 16 talks about the prom management park. So you cannot put this application forward through with any justification to say that it fits that. In the report, it actually dictates that they would go some way to support the visitors and a centre and the restaurant. And that's not actually correct, because in the Central Area Master Plan, they call for a restaurant and a visitors centre, not for these. These are
trying to regularise what we already have.
Well, there's 10 concessions on there already. This would add another 7, so that would be 17 concessions. This is a commercial grab for money. That's what it is, and the fundamental aspect of which is, I would like to have debated the report, because there's some fundamental flaws. It's not policy compliant for many policies. When we look at policies N1, policy N3, policy N5, S1, D1, there's against the MPPF, it just does not sit. It doesn't sit with any of those. So I think that the deferral to the committee to look at it, because where's the business case to justify what it can bring? Because also the ecology consultants that did a report said it would improve footfall to the town. There's a lot of, no disrespect to them, it's a nice little report, but there's a lot of fundamental errors here. And I'm not against additional things coming on the prom. You know, it's just got to be in the right place with the right feel to be able to support the visitor attraction. But the fundamental aspect of it is there's a Central Area Master Plan that's been passed by the council, which we have to adhere to. We have that drummed down us so many times. And also, I am highly disappointed that we, as members, weren't consulted and talked to about the different areas, because I had my right foot run over by a little boy with a remote control down there 2 weeks ago in the amphitheatre. And it was so sweet the way that he did it. And you're taking that away by putting a concession in there. So it needs a bit more of a strategic thought, and I think the master plan and the prom park management plan, which Mr Holmes has promised to tailor for us, would be the place to start. And then you start to look at what do we need to do to be able to bring more attractions. These are not attractions. They're tents, shepherd's huts. They're not proms. So I think there's a lot to do. I would very much support Councillor Nunn and your recommendation.
Thank you. I'll come to you in just a moment, Councillor Swain. I'm going to go to Councillor Spenceley first, because she hasn't spoken.
Just to say, really, to agree with a lot of what's already been said by other members, I don't feel that this is the right committee for this item at the moment. Whether or not it needs planning permission eventually is kind of irrelevant. I think that there are lots of strategy matters here and things which aren't appropriate for this committee before they're discussed. And for that reason, I absolutely support your proposal that it's deferred.
Thank you. Councillor Swain, could I ask you to, Councillor Hurd, could I ask you to turn your, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I just add that it is, should we say, at the wrong time. And in the absence of some general plans for managing the park and for the approach to the park, we would probably be having to add in so many conditions to the use, it would probably vitiate the whole purpose of the proponents of this application.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to return to my original proposal to defer this matter. I've had a seconder, I've got a thirder as well. Could I have a vote for approval by show of hands, please?
Chairman, can I just mention that the terms of reference for all area planning committees talks about referral or deferral to either district planning or council for resolution. It does not make any mention of other committees.
Okay, in that case, I will amend my proposal and send it to full council.
So I'm happy to
hold on a
amend
sec.
the second.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Well, in that case, Chair, why can't we actually open the debate, have the debate, make a determination, and then it either stands or it falls? It's probably the easiest and clearest way, then there's no deferral to another committee. Oh, we don't need to go full council, really, does it? Because at the end of the day, this committee can make a determination based on
Okay,
their
I'm going to withdraw
recommendations.
all my proposals at this point. Do I have a proposal from the floor? Councillor Lagan.
Sorry, Chair, I just need to put my glasses on because I've hit that certain age. I recommend, should we not have the debate first, the presentation, then the debate, and then, is that the right,
Okay.
the right form, to be honest?
Miss Matthews.
Yes, through you, Chairman. I think my understanding of what members are concerned about is that really the council hasn't made a case for the need for these extra concessions within the Prom Park. So it sounds to me like members are concerned about the principle of introducing these extra concessions without proper justification or explanation, or in the wider context, the plan for the park. So to me, it sounds like members are concerned about the principle of it, and that is a relevant planning consideration. So if members feel that the case hasn't been made for these concessions, then that is a reason for refusal and under planning grounds. You've mentioned the central area master plan and yeah. So I know it's been recommended for approval. I'm talking against my own recommendation. But so perhaps, as Bernard has said, there's no real avenue for referring it to the strategy committee. But I think what members are perhaps saying in another way is that the council hasn't made a proper case for this, and there are concerns about it, and issues have been raised about what it looks like. So there's character and appearance reasons there.
Yes.
Issues have been made about pollution, but I think that's probably perhaps a bit beyond material planning considerations. That's perhaps more of an issue for the council as a landowner, and giving out these leases and permissions for these concessions to operate, and which ones they choose to allow and which ones they don't as a landowner. So it is a bit complicated and difficult, because we've got Maldon Council as planning authority, and we've got Maldon Council as landowner and manager and operator of the park. So be careful to keep those two issues separate.
Yes.
But to me, it still feels like there are material planning considerations that have been raised potentially validly, and that it seems to me anyway that the application could still be determined tonight, and maybe it's one that because of the concerns that were raised, it's refused rather than approved, or it's deferred for further justification to be provided before you make your decision. If that no, so there is two options there, I think, which perhaps cover the original proposal, but perhaps in a slightly different way. Thank you,
Councillor Lagan. I'll come back to you in a moment. Just Bernard, hold on.
Way to Burner.
Oh, Bernard.
Well, as Catherine says, I mean, you can actually defer for further information to be provided. I mean, that's a standard from all area planning committees. If there is an issue, if there's something outstanding in a report.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Nunn and then back to Councillor Lagan.
So I'm very grateful to Miss Matthews for that advice. If we refuse this tonight, does that mean that it will not be able to come back to this committee for 6 months?
Well, through Chairman, if it's refused tonight, the council could submit another application, but that's an 8-week process. No, normally, yeah.
Thank you. So 8 weeks. So what's going round in my head at the moment, Chair, for what it's worth, is either a refusal or a deferral for more information. That more information being the promenade plan.
Yeah.
So I would so my recommendation would be to defer it for further information.
Yeah.
That further information being the promenade plan.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, I don't want to hear what my colleague says. I feel that there's an active planning application in front of us, and there are concerns in there, and they could all be part of that. To my mind, if members debate this evening, and this is a central area plan, and this is that committee, thus it should be discussed at this juncture. If it is members' wishes that it's refused, then it's only 8 weeks, and then the officers will know the valid reasons for refusal or acceptance if it goes that way, and then another application will be put in. But it would be very difficult, I'd expect, for that application to happen without the prom management plan being an overriding document in the hierarchy there.
Okay. Before I go any further, Councillor Hubner, did you want to?
Yeah, I just think we have to defer this because we don't know why they're doing it. How
Okay.
much money it's costing, and how much money they're going to generate, and is there any benefit for this?
What I'd like to do, if with members' approval, is actually ask Miss Matthews to do her presentation, have a short debate, and then come back to whether or not we are going to defer it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The officer's presentation, does it show pictures of the sort of thing that they're going to...
Yes, it does.
Because I've just seen pictures. And
Yes, it does.
that's a little bit
It does.
worrying. And can you just confirm that's not the back gate for the last application?
No, it's not. Sorry. Thank you. Miss Matthews, could you do your presentation for us, please?
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Okay, so this is an application for use of 7 areas within the Prom Park for concessions in temporary type structures between the months of April and October, and between the hours of 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. each day. So these are the locations, which it's not that clear, unfortunately, but this is the amphitheatre here to orientate yourself, and the lake. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 2 in the play area down there. Yeah. So that's shows the same thing really, but perhaps slightly clearer with the red areas identified. Block plan again. So there'd be one concession, one structure, temporary structure within each area. So these are the examples that have been provided as part of the application as potential structures. And then these are some photos of they've been labelled in letters. I'm sure you're very familiar with the Prom Park, but so that's the amphitheatre there, and we've got the area next to the toilets here and the splash park area here. So they're just rough ideas of where it might be. So the recommendation is for approval. Before I go, just conclude, I just want to make sure that members have noted that there is an update from the strategy team setting out quite strong support for the proposal and the benefits it would be for the area in their view. And I've also today had an email from Essex County Council Ecology. That's one of the consultation responses that's missing, and they raise no objection but do recommend conditions which could be imposed if members did resolve to grant permission today. Having assessed the application, officers view that the principle could be viewed to be acceptable. Character and appearance, it's acceptable, even though it's a conservation area. Local residents wouldn't be adversely affected. Issues relating to highway safety, parking, and flood risk and nature conservation are all felt to be acceptable or no harmful impact, and it is recommended for approval. But for a temporary three-year period with limited hours to those proposed, and for April to October only. And that's a recommendation that's been made. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms Matthews. I sit here with a design degree, and that would fail. I will leave my comments at that level. Does anybody else have any other comments they would like to make? Councillor Spenceley, then Councillor Shaughnessy, then Councillor Lagan.
Right, so I probably need to declare an interest. First time I've ever done this. I'm a trustee of the Maldon Festival, which I think might be relevant to what I'm about to say, but it's a non-pecuniary interest.
Thank you.
So could someone just confirm for me with regard to the unit plan for the amphitheatre? Would this then effectively rule out the opportunity much of the time for open air performance?
Through you, Chairman, the position of the one in the area of the amphitheatre has been shown to be here, so it's outside the circular area, and the amphitheatre itself is just to one side. So
It's not very
probably
clear,
not.
though. Sorry. Is that... Do you want to come back? No?
Yes, it's hard to say, isn't it, from just looking at it like that? And that, I think, illustrates one of my concerns, in that it's not really clear what the plan is and what we're planning to do with the park. And I do believe that at some point in the past, open air performance was something that was sometimes happened. In fact, I think there was some Shakespeare there at one point. Yeah.
The Mac Theatre was down there.
And it would be beautiful post-pandemic to see those things happening again. And I have some concerns that with that location, that might make that quite difficult, even where it is. And I think we could be, ruling out things here for the future that we haven't considered. And so this is one of the reasons why I feel we don't have enough information. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shaughnessy.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I also have concerns with the one proposed for the amphitheatre. I think the amphitheatre, I agree with Councillor Lagan, should be left clear at all times. Kiddies do love to play there, run around there, and I don't think there should be one there. I also have concerns about these engines running. There are some in the prom anyway. We don't need to add to that. Seeing as everyone needs to be concerned about climate change at the moment, we do not need extra CO2 floating around the prom, and as Councillor Hurd said, particularly near the children's play areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
I won't go over all of the points, and I agree with Councillor Hurd and Councillor Shaughnessy, but we was always told about looking at policies and reasons, because it's not just the fact that you don't particularly like the fact that it's a shed, but if you look at the policies, you take paragraph 1 in the policy M1 calls for open spaces with historic interest will be protected, so that's actually in our policy. Policy 1N4 says all developments must be accompanied by a long-term management plan to the council's satisfaction. So that underlines and rubber stamps why we need the Prom Park management plan first of all before we do anything else. Then in policy, our own policy, section N3 6.21, it says national policy plans to protect open spaces. That's page 105 of our own local development plan. And under 6.22 of N3, it talks the council is committed to protecting and maintaining existing and informal open spaces. There's only a couple more. This is why I was concerned about the plan as it comes forward to us there. It's in a 623. The council generally support developments which improve the accessibility, attractiveness and recreation to these facilities. This application in its current form doesn't do that. We can see from some of the proposed buildings. 6.26 on page 106. It also talks about the council is producing a sports and active physical activity strategy. I haven't seen that come across us as members. Then you talk about the times of opening, which is 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Well, when I looked at the sunset times from April till October, the latest, the sunset is 9:21 in June, and it goes down to October at 6:09. So maybe there'll be some antisocial behaviour issues with people going round there, and would they be there? The conclusion in 3.2, it talked about, you can see the principle of development through the MPPF, and there's no objections are raised. And that's obviously been discussed tonight. And again, I think it's a mishmash of items. You just said Mr. Salisbury's, Ross's, they're all about the Victorian Park and the Field, which is the draw to 500,000 visitors a year that we're getting already. You've got an asset here, the main consideration in section 5, it talks about the main issue which require consideration as part of the determination of this application are the principles of development, the impact development on the character and appearance of the area. Well, this would do nothing to enhance the character and appearance of the area. It's brilliant for when we have the markets or when we have the armed forces and we have things like that, where we have additions down there. I think that's really beneficial. But if you're putting these type of things in, it doesn't really serve many peoples. Again, strategy S1, it talks about on our own policy S1 section 10, it talks about conserve and enhance the historic environment, and I can't see that does. 5.2.3 policy E2 aims to support the provision of retail, office, tourism and culture and communities. When I went and read that in depth, it talks about in town centre areas. That's dictated on page 70 of the local development plan. There's a lot more as well. There's a lot more subjective nature of comments that were basically in here. And the fourth bullet point, which again is something that we can, and this has been recorded so we can go back on this, something that would support Councillor Hurd, Councillor Nunn and your good self's proposal. It says the proposal would support local business, improve the offer within the park and support the local economy. I'd love to see a business case for that, because I'd like to support more local businesses with some form of access to the prom. They don't forget members, they can have that now. And they do. Maldon Books comes down, has a period of time and then goes. So, you know, any business could do that, and that's within an officer's delegated powers, so there's no problem about that as well. Finally, really, the reasons for refusal, again, from this application, there's several here. You could refuse on the grounds of not meeting policies M1, paragraph 1, M1, section 4, not meeting the requirements of the camp, project 16. That links to M1 as well, because that's a direct linkage to that. Our own policy S110, it fails to conserve or enhance the historic environment. D1.1, it doesn't respect or enhance the character of the area. And also D1 section 8, it doesn't contribute or enhance. So I think with officers' support, members, I'd say we reject this. And again, it does then come back because we require more detail. But first of all, the prompt management plan needs to be developed before we can look at any multi-site planning applications such as this. And I went on a bit, I know, I'm sorry.
Okay. Councillor Swain.
I don't know if I could simplify all that. I would suggest we could refuse the application on the grounds that we don't want any semi-permanent use of those areas, of the identified areas.
Councillor Nunn.
Well, unless I've misread the debate, I don't think we're suggesting that, are we?
No,
really?
I was under the impression that we wanted to go much more down the line of deferring this application because we don't have enough information on the table. Not enough has been considered. We have no design plans. We've really got nothing more than it's going to go here, here and here. We don't know what will go where and what those temporary structures will look like, not what they might look like, what they will look like. In every other plan, we would know what they look like. In this plan, there is no guidance. We've got, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be that. And I think I take on board absolutely about the CO2 emissions. So that was my understanding. So I need a proposal from the floor that is going to be seconded.
So through you, Chair, I think we need to be clear about what our options are. We could approve this.
Yes, we could.
Yes, in line with the recommendation. We could refuse it.
Yes.
On the grounds that have been stated.
Which Miss Matthews has come up with.
We can't defer it we can't refer it to another committee apart from full council or district planning.
No, but we can
But we
defer
can
it to...
defer it for further information. Is that
Yes.
what's being said?
Yes.
And that further
right, isn't it?
information could be
The management
the
plan.
management plan. Sorry, I'm not wishing
No.
to chair the meeting. I'm
No.
just trying to be clear about what the options are, really.
That they are the 4 options.
Thank you.
I am going to make a recommendation that we defer this to come back to this committee at a later date once we have a management plan and a proper, well thought through strategy for this development.
Seconded.
All those in favour, please show by hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Unanimous. Don't say anything. It's carried. This matter will be deferred for more information to come back at a later date. Thank you. That concludes our meeting this evening. Thank you very much for your time. I'd like to thank officers and one officer that's gone, and I'm closing the meeting at 8:45.